see what happens.
Zenobia was still shaking as they got out. I didn't know, she said. The Ravens kept it secret. At first they sacrificed prisoners, then villages near the frontier, and then an orphanage. Kittens and puppies. Sometimes he'd come back to the palace and it was like there were glowing things behind his eyes. But I was so busy. I'll clear a path for us, Renato told Zenobia, so the Ravens don't see you. Smelt burnt fur. His. Better. This thing really needed a roof. Zenobia came up as he massaged his sore arm. Her eyes were wet. He's been saying strange things. He asked me to do experiments. And some were wrong. They are banished, right? Said Renato. Gone forever. I mean, he couldn't actually bring the old gods back, could he? She didn't answer him. That frightened him more than anything.
Come on. 5 more.
Renato felt new powers, ready to blossom within him, or something.
we got it.
I wondered what he could make with all this ore and essence. Oh, right. Probably a sword.
Have one. Dang it.
See? With enough leverage, you could go anywhere. Renato wondered if he should have taken Zenobia to the rebel base for real. Maybe she wasn't playing him after all. After the bleak talk about the Emperor's dark secrets, he was regretting his suspicion.
Stamina for dashing?
They came up on an empty shack. He gestured her in. "Where's the base?" she asked, confused. "I thought we could talk a bit first." "Oh, you think I'm playing you?" She was furious. "I'm betraying my father who picked me out of an alley, and you think I'm playing you?" She lashed out. Her claws sliced fire into his face. Energy boiled in her other paw. But before she could kill him, he slashed his sword into her heart. She staggered. "I could have loved you.
Okay.
You son of a bitch." And then she died. Renato stood there for hours, unable to move. Finally, a ship landed near him. Lapino had brought the Farfarer. On board the Farfarer, Lapino couldn't stop grinning. "I can't believe you actually killed her." "Why didn't I trust her?" Renato said. All he could feel was emptiness. "You killed the Emperor's daughter. You might want to run for it, if you care whether you live or die, that is." Since Renato didn't, he grabbed the wheel, and he sailed for the Imperial fleet.
She probably betrays me. So let's see what happens here.
Renato had never felt worse. Zenobia had listened to him. He had trusted him. She had opened her eyes to her father's evil. Done everything he had hoped for. And he had taken him to a dirty shack. Was he so used to lying that he couldn't trust even the girl he had always loved? It was time for a little exploration. He could see the rebels reeling back as he plunged into the ranks of the Ravens. He'd had to kill the girl he loved, but he'd also blown the biggest opportunity they could have had to turn the Emperor's daughter against him. Renata could only laugh miserably. He was taking crazy chances now, swinging wildly. He expected the Ravens to take him at any moment, but they were running in fear. No one wants to fight a man who doesn't care if he lives. No one wants to fight a hero. Good thing Renato didn't have vertigo. Soon he'd confront the Emperor. Again. This time, he'd make an end of him. He'd screwed up last time, but he had a good feeling about this time.
See what happens here.
He was exhausted. Could barely think. He wanted to stop thinking. The rebels were already finished, and he was the last. The Ravens were coming for him personally now, in waves. It didn't matter. He was slick with his own blood, but it didn't matter. In the distance, he could see her, embraced by a halo of light, holding her hand out to him. Had she forgiven him? Would she take him to the halls of the Valiant? Then he felt steel in his belly, and his chest, and his back. And he lay down, and he couldn't see her anymore. He should go back to some of the choices he'd faced before. Maybe there were new paths that had opened up. like those doors he was opening up all over the map that took him to new treasures and around his enemies. And he hadn't learned anything new this time. He'd done the same thing twice, yet expected a different outcome.
I did do the same thing twice.
The book's pages fluttered to the beginning once again. Faster than before? And he fell. The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Bernardo knew that using it could go catastrophically wrong. But he was sure he could figure out how to use it safely. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it, to take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. On the other hand, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Lapino was no game changer, but could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
All right, let's try this one last
Lapino.
time.
Apparently, the Mad Rabbit had sold a Pegasus that he did not exactly own. Lapino always wiggled out of trouble, given time. But he was out of time. The Ravens had figured out that Lapino was a rebel spy. If the fleet reached him first, they'd string him up for that. Never mind the winged horse. Lapino had apparently managed to confuse the judge by arguing that he hadn't actually stolen a winged horse. He'd only sold it. But wait, where was the prison? The village was empty. Had everybody fled the Ravens? That was odd. Bernardo had been here, at this exact place, at this exact time. But this time, there were so many more ravens. What's behind? Door number 2. Boy, someone has spent a lot of money for a graduation present.
I think I have everything now.
Bernardo had tried everything. Zenobia had loved him to death. The Sky Ripper had destroyed everything. The Iblis Stone had corrupted everyone who held it. He'd never put much faith in Lapino. But Lapino was all he had left. Sometimes, all you know is what you know. You know? was still no sign of Lupino. Not a hair, not a pellet. Was he hiding in the cemetery further down the road? That didn't seem like him.
Good. Was it good for you?
Dirty and bloody, Renato finally reached Lupino. The rabbit was practicing his shuffle. Renato recognized the cards. It was Lupino's favorite deck. Oh, I thought you were in danger. I am. The ravens are coming. Oh, the prison thing. Right, yeah, see, this guard owed me 53 ducats, so we made a deal. They're very reasonable people, actually, for weasels. Now, I got a brilliant plan to kidnap Zenobia. We capture Zenobia, we find out what she knows. And that's the whole war right there. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Capture the Emperor's greatest general, who happened to also be a deadly sorcerer, and, oh, his only daughter? That would be worth it. And it would be nice to see her. He'd always had a soft spot for her. And, he felt sure, she had one for him. On the other hand, he could still get to the core of the Sky Ripper, even if he couldn't get the whole thing. It must have great power. Zenobia wasn't just the Emperor's daughter, of course. She'd been Renato's best friend in Sword Fu school. And you're still mad for her, the rabbit reminded him. The rabbit had a point, and Renato had a feeling she'd want to see him again. Who knows what could happen between the two of them this time around? She knows all his plans, chuckled the master spy. She won't give them up easily. She'll tell the interrogators, all right, said Lupino. Taking her would change the game, all right. The city was already under Zenobia's control. I had to admire her efficiency. Renato shivered at the thought of Zenobia at the mercy of the interrogators. Could he really turn her over to them? But this was war. It wasn't meant to be pretty.
The reason we even do any fighting is to level up.
The new pathway made Renato curious. What exactly was Lupino up to this time? You could see the wheels spinning inside his head. They made Renato dizzy, in fact. Gogglers. Renato hated gogglers. It was almost impossible to sneak past them. If one didn't spot you, another one would.
Oh.
Sleep tight, thought Renato. So, what's this plan of yours? Use me as bait, said Lupino. And he outlined a slightly complicated plan that involved geese, a net, setting the Farfarer a little bit on fire, Lupino dressing as an old blind toad, and Renato hiding inside a monstrous watermelon. What could possibly go wrong? Thought Renato. Oh, go ahead. I'm sure you know better, said Lupino.
You're being burned.
Fucked.